As the sports news for you now, 17 minutes after 8 o'clock. At this point, we would like to talk about coverage of the elections and the media's role in that. We've been speaking to members of the different camps all this week, and today we want to take a look at the role that we play. What are the expectations of the public from the media? What role do we have? The ethics, some of the issues that we cover, some of the issues that we can cover better. And we're here with Haron Mwangi, who's the CEO, or is it the MD of the Media Council of Kenya. He's here to tell us, to give us the big stick and tell us what we're doing right and what we need to do. And let's start by talking about the role of the Media Council of Kenya, Haron, in terms of just keeping the media in check.
Media Council of Kenya is a statutory body that regulates the performance and conduct of media and journalists in Kenya. And basically we do that through the arbitration of complaints, we do that through training of journalists, we do that through defense of media freedom, we do that through the monitoring of media, and basically advising the media in terms of how they are performing and the expectations of the Kenyans in terms of their performance.
Right. Yes. How would you audit media coverage of various political events and otherwise over the last 5 years? You know, we all know what was said in 2007, 2008 about the media playing a role in fanning the violence in some parts of the country. From then up till now, what would you say has been the work that the media has done so far?
I would say that the media in Kenya has become even more vibrant. There are more platforms, there are more outlets, they're more competitive, media is more lively, and the content, the level of content has also increased. We'd also say that the level of professionalism has also increased. Journalists have become more critical and more analytical. And therefore there has been, on the positive side, there has been very, very good trends that indicate that media is very central in the society. On the leeward side, basically, there are also challenges that the media is facing, and basically that makes us feel that they have not served the public interest ideally. In a situation like now, when we have the election, there are three key parameters that we need to use to gauge the performance of media. Number one is that media is supposed to give information to the Kenyans, advice and analysis on issues that they would consider to be primary in their lives, and basically to help the Kenyans to pursue or to know their rights and pursue those rights. And therefore, if the Kenyans are not given the broadest range of information and discourses on issues that pertains to their lives and issues that they would consider to be pertinent, then we would say that media is falling to that kind of that particular level.
All right. Let's talk about some of the challenges and what you feel the media may not have done right. Let's talk about this particular moment. We have political party primaries coming up, the election that's coming up, campaigns, you know, candidates who are going around the country selling their ideas and their proposals to the electorate. What do you think are some of the areas the media can do better?
No, we have been carrying media monitoring for the last on election for the last one year or so, and we have a number of reports that we have released. One of the most recent reports is on how the media is covering presidential elections. Number one is that the media is taking sides, and I would say this with a lot of confidence, because there are some presidential candidates that have received extensive coverage both on TV and print and radio and even social sites, while others completely have been blacked out or have been blurred. I'll give an example of the latest presidential bid or launch by Professor Ole Kayapi, where basically he was given significant blackout by mainstream media. And of course he has also raised complaints on that. And of course this small president, there's also categorization of other small presidential candidates as others, and therefore insignificant, so to speak, and therefore they're not given sufficient space.
So you agree with Kiapi's complaint, because he had that complaint that he should be covered a little more?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely he's covered, because that constrains diversity and range of information that the Kenyans need so that they're able to make very informed choices. If you just continuously concentrate information and debate, you know, along the the more prominent or leading presidential candidate, then you're blocking out very crucial and alternative voices from other candidates. Number two, we also see the space that is given to some presidential candidates is unequally distributed. And therefore, for example, you see a TV station giving over 9 minutes of news time, prime news time, to a presidential candidate, and giving about 2, 3, or even half than a minute, really, to a certain other presidential candidate. There's marked biasness in terms of the way the media is covering presidential candidates, and this is a challenge because they have to embrace diversity. In fact, the Kenya Communication Information Act, okay, tells that we must give the broadest range of information to increase diversity and plurality of information, of ideas, so that people can make choices.
Okay, all right. Let's go back to talking about, you mentioned how the media takes sides. Internationally, we've seen in other countries, when they're going into an election, we've seen certain media houses taking a stand and saying, we endorse the candidature of candidate X because we believe he has or she has, you know, the qualities required to become president, governor, senator, for whatever post they're running in. Is that something you think we can adopt or should adopt here in the country? Would that be dangerous?
There are two issues that would speak against that. And of course, this has been the debate has been raging as to whether media should endorse presidential aspirants. Number one is that politics in Kenya is highly ethnicized, and therefore, if a given political party or given media supports another a given political party, it means that the other people that do not belong to that particular party feel antagonized, and therefore it gives some kind of tension between communities and so forth. Number two is that media in Kenya may not want to risk the whole issue of supporting a given candidate, because again they are going to lose some kind of market segment in some certain geographical areas in Kenya. Number three is that where are you going to endorse a candidate? On what ground? What issues? Suppose editors in Standard met and brought in a presidential candidate and said, we want us to endorse you. On what issues? Because politicians in Kenya have not brought in any issues. Would you risk endorsing a political party that you cannot substantially and consistently support throughout the electioneering period? You not risk that. So those are very basic issues that really have a big challenge in Kenya, and basically, in my own opinion, it would be difficult for us to
be able to sustain that.
You're right.
Okay,
You're right.
I hear what you're saying. When we talk about the role of the media in the last 5 years, we do know the circumstances that led to the coalition government and the lack of a very strong opposition. The media was encouraged to play that role. How well do you think the media did that in terms of keeping the government in check, holding them to account for statements made, promises made, some delivered, some not? Did we play the role effectively as the de facto opposition?
Partially they did. And I would say partially because most of the people that were in the opposition and most of the people that again were in the civil society were assimilated into the government. And therefore the kind of media kind of relaxed, because they felt that the people that were on our side when we were agitating for change are already in possession, and therefore those are buddies. Why should we be very critical in terms of watching them and looking and just to find out what they're doing and holding them accountable? So the media kind of relaxed, and the alternative voice in terms of the civil society in Kenya again is also lax. So media, I would say, has not taken a very critical role, and therefore it has been left to hyping, hoop and hoopla of hyping simplistic issues that are articulated by the leaders as opposed to critiquing them and getting to the background just to find out their decisions, their action, and whether their promises are being met. So I would say partially that the media has not been very critical in terms of its watchdog role. What it has been doing is giving information, plenty of information that is not analytical, that is not critical, and I would say not very informative.
Okay, all right. Let's take a look at some of the epic moments in Kenya's history. Let's look at it in the last 5 years or so. How could the media have covered some of the stories better? Let's talk about, for example, when we promulgated the Constitution in 2010. Was that a great moment of election coverage?
It was a great moment, and I would say it was properly covered. It was a good moment. Everybody was looking forward to it. The Kenyans, the media, the civil society, the international community. Therefore, the news that we are propagating the Constitution was well analyzed, was well covered, and that was a plus for media.
Okay, all right. Let me bring you to another moment.
But before then, there was the whole issues of the referendum in the Constitution, and where media basically took side again, and it became part of some certain media became yes media, others became no media, and therefore that kind of antagonism again was not very healthy. All right,
yes. But I do think predominantly, correct me if I'm wrong, in this particular referendum, unlike the one in 2005. They pushed the idea that we need a new constitution.
Absolutely, absolutely.
There were very few, I think, that said no. Although they did give the ones who disagreed with the constitution some time space, and some space. And I do think the media took a stand and said a constitution, a new one is what we will require. Was that the right thing to have done?
They did that, but the only challenge is that the no voice, the analysis of the no voice and why the no voice was aired by or was brought out by some presidential candidate was not properly given some attention, and therefore there was a kind of a camouflage of the negative side of the Constitution or the bad side of the Constitution. But generally, we would say that the media played a very critical role, and it really endorsed the Constitution.
All right, let's come back to the issue that is plaguing the country at the moment, and that's the issue of the imposter, the alleged police imposter, I should say. Yesterday, Charles Owino, who's the deputy police spokesman, came out as saying he's not happy with the way the media covered it, that we made a big deal out of the story, that it's something we could have downplayed a little bit because it portrays us in the international media not in a good light, with investors, with our partners abroad, and I've talked about this on the show today because it's a comment that struck me as odd when he said, you know, if your mother is naked and, you know, would you parade her out or would you keep it in? At what point do we draw the line? Are we only supposed to report the good things? Kenya's doing well, you know, there's investment in this tourism and there's this and there's a hotel opening here. And when it's an issue like that, which is a major issue because this is a person who is a very high-ranking official within the force, what's your take on the comment that the police spokesman made yesterday?
I think media did a good job in terms of uncovering and analyzing the issue of what happened, because the Kenyans have the right to know. The media has the responsibility of telling the Kenyans about what is happening in the country and how this is likely to affect them. And it is of paramount importance, particularly now when we're talking about insecurity in Kenya, which is one of the biggest, I would say, should be one of the key agenda among the politicians and in the media. So for me, it was a good thing to bring it out. But of course, again, that the Kenyans perceived this as a weakness. It was a lacuna within the police force, and of course we can't help it. We are international. We are open. The borders are open, and therefore there is not that you can confine it to the border. So it is unfortunate, but actually it is a good thing in my own view.
All right. So we should report on the good and the bad.
Yes, absolutely, right. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Even when it could possibly dent our image across the borders.
Of course, there's this limit. There's also what we call social responsibility of the media. How much? What is the impact? Because journalists really are trained not just to write and not just to broadcast, but also to look at the effect of what they are really likely to write or what they are likely to say. Therefore, accountability and responsibility again, so moderation in terms of looking at the implication of what they are writing is also very important in the analysis.